Listen, I tell people all the time, these interviews, I really do think they're more for me than anybody else, but I share them because it wouldn't be right to not share all the goodness that happens in these conversations. And I know today's conversation will be no different. Listening to you, because we connected when you were hosting another event with Larnell Vickers. Shout out to Larnell. Hey, he's a phenomenal human, y'all. But we connected then, and I knew I had to have you on the podcast primarily because I love any coach who can get to the root of the matter and help you to press forward and to move on. So y'all prepare yourself, because this conversation is about to be everything and more. And I always start the conversation every single time with the idea and the understanding that knowing who we are and being confident in whomever that is, it informs our choices. It helps us determine what we're doing, how we're going for it, the confidence we hold. And so then who do you say you are?
So I always start by telling folks I'm Sanai's mama, because that, like, I am somebody's mama in the world. And I think that for the last, 16 years, I have a whole 16-year-old. That has really defined how I have approached the world, because I'm a solo mama. And I didn't start out with the intention to be one or raise a kiddo on my own, but, you know, we playing God laughs. And so I had to forge my way a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so being somebody's mama really means that I had to learn very early that I am designed to incubate and to give life, and not just to a baby, but that my womb is really designed to birth things, which is why you got to be careful who you link up with in life, in business, etc. Because what you don't want to birth a gremlin now.
Oh, not the gremlin. First of all, you starting as soon as we end. I love it. But yes, I'm continue. Yes.
So I'm like, I'm somebody's mama. And because of that, my approach to life has been about helping to be a guide to somebody else's purpose, but not to find your purpose. I think your purpose is aligned to your values, but to activate your purpose. And so whether it was in my early career when I was in investment banking, or when I transitioned to being a professional fundraiser, because I really wanted to help have transformative resources come into organizations with great missions, or if it was boards I served on, or if it's in my sorority or at my church, wherever I set my feet down, I believe that my role was to help lay track. I always tease that I'm like always early to the party. I get to the party now. Why do I get to the party when the caterers are still putting up the sternos? I want to get to the party when it is fashionably late. Just hello. But I don't get there then. I get there early. And so what that has resulted in is me being able to use my strengths. I'm a Clifton Strengths coach, to be able to help folks see how the things that they are naturally designed to do can be activated, supercharged, and elevated. And so I found my way to being a leadership and management coach, really focused on wellness and well-being as a pathway to leading powerfully. And so that brings me to who I am. I'm Kishshana Palmer. I'm a Queens girl. Okay. Hello, Queens, New York in the house. I'm your quintessential corner office executive, a little home girl in there. And I am just super excited about life and about helping people understand how to live well so that they can lead well.
That right there is my favorite quote of yours. And I know it's your mantra, and literally it is the bedrock of, for me at least, all that makes sense whenever you're talking about, because you can be a boss and never be a leader.
That's right.
They're not synonymous.
That's right. Let me take some notes. Y'all see? Hold on. The gems dropping. Okay. Listen.
They're not synonymous. And if you think they are, you are in for a very rude awakening.
That's right.
Because they're not. And you have so many bosses who are playing the position or playing the role of a leader who are literally messing up folks who they were sent to lead, but they can't lead them because they're trying so hard to be their boss.
Ooh,
like
so good.
You messing up what they could have, and also what you could have, because you're literally, you're draining them, you're exhausting them, you're helping them to take themselves out of the running, because you have not figured out, how do I deal with my own stuff so that I can come, just like you said, live well so you can lead well. And so how does one like begin that process of living well to even be capable of leading well?
So I think one of the things that I had to learn the hard way, listen, because y'all, for whatever reason, when all of the portions were being given out, I got the portion of experiential learning. And so I have to experience it. You too? I have to experience it to understand. Why? Why can I not just watch the tape?
No, I have to touch the stove. Like,
I gotta touch the stove. Ooh, I got scars right now from the stove. Look at that. I got to touch the stove. How many of us have those kind of scars that you can see and you can't see because you just had to go touch it, right? And so I didn't get to the point of understanding what living well meant until I realized that I was just existing and not living, and that I had gotten on the hamster wheel of busy, and I got real good at being busy. Let me run it down. Listen to the day in my life. Let me run it down because I know this is familiar to you. You get up in the morning, you might say a prayer or two. You rush through, and if you're on a spurt, you might get on your bike. You might get to the gym. You might do, but if you have a little one at home, you running downstairs, breakfast, snack, this, trying to get the shower, put a little smell good. You rushing out, makeup half done, getting to the drop off. You the last one in the circle, rushing to the job, rushing back to the office, whatever it is your hustle is, and then you just jumping into the day. And you don't get to make the happy hours or the birthday parties or the brunches, or you always late. And people are like, well, I know you busy, but. So if you start to get from folks that expression, I know you're busy, but, that means that the doing in your life has taken over. And so I was in the heavy doing phase.
So you just going off of me already in the conversation. That's fine. It's totally fine.
Listen, I didn't mean to tell you off. Okay. So you heavy in the busy stage, right? That's how I had to learn about living well, but not enjoying anything, not enjoying my first major client win, not enjoying the first time I was on stage, not enjoying the first time I got press, not enjoying the first time my daughter got a solo at her concert at school. Just in the audience, looking at the time, because I had a deadline.
Yeah.
Because I just want to hurry up.
Yeah.
So when you start to realize that you're missing the moments that make life rich and full, sitting in the car waiting for them to finish soccer, dance, gymnastics, karate, fill in the blank. And you know the babies ain't that good at it, and we sitting there anyway.
They not. They don't be so good in the beginning.
They don't be so good. They don't be so good. Some of y'all are lucky. Y'all got the good ones. Everybody don't got that. Some of the babies just mediocre at best.
That part. And then sometimes it don't even be mediocre. Sometimes it just be real, real bad.
It's real bad. It's real bad.
But you gotta, you don't want to hurt their spirits. So you be yes, baby. I am so proud.
Did you enjoy yourself? Did you have fun?
Did you like it?
Did you like it? Oh, that's the look. If that ain't the coach's mediocrity stance, did you like it? Do I care if you like it? Did my money like it? So the point is that when you are starting to miss those small things, and then you start to resent those waiting moments, those in the car moments, those at the doctor moments, those rushing the traffic moments, those last to pick up moments. And some folks who are watching and listening are not parents. Many of us are caregivers.
Yeah.
And so insert auntie, insert grandma, insert the family friend, insert the cousin that you didn't adopt, insert whomever, however. Many of us then bring that rush and that not enjoying it into our business. And so then what ends up happening is the body keeps the score.
Yes.
And it shows up differently for many of us, and particularly for women and women identifying folks. It shows up in the fibroids. It shows up in the gut. It shows up in the migraines. It shows up in the neck bulge. It shows up in the permanent scowl.
Where your energy is just mean and nasty and bitter.
And you don't even really like yourself, but you're busy though.
Yeah, you got all the things to do. You got all the things to do.
I had to learn the hard way when I started to get very sick. First bronchitis. I've always suffered from migraines since I was a child. Then the migraine started kicking up. Then the pressure. And I still, listen, I was getting the tap, y'all. I was getting the tap. Sit down. Sit down.
Calm down.
Calm down. Hey, sit down. Hey, girl, sit down. And I was like, hey,
I'm good. Leave me be.
And then what happened?
I'm busy.
1-2 punch. I'm busy.
I'm busy.
Then you get to 1-2 punch, your back, your hip, your toe.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you want to make time for your wellness? You're going to make time for this illness.
Hey. That's what you did.
Yep.
So I realized that I came up with this sort of catchy thing, because that's my thing. I come up with the catchy phrase, that's where we have the marketing background. So that's when you can get a catchy phrase. But I wasn't living it. I wasn't living it. I was talking about it, but I wasn't living it. And it wasn't until I had a debilitating back flare up the first time that I started to go, I'm not doing this right. I need to investigate. And I realized when I looked across that my leadership, how I was running my household, how I'm showing up in my family. People think it starts at work. You just talked about the fact that you could be a boss and not a leader, right?
Yes.
It doesn't actually start at work. It starts at home.
Yes. Oh, you are all in my conversation. I literally just said that on this CEO's page this morning. He was saying how he, had to make sure he was taking care of work and then his family. And I'm like, no, it's the opposite way around. Take care of your family first. And then the fullness that you get from taking care of your family, then you're able to take that fullness into your work. Because if you died tomorrow, that job is going to have you replaced in 2 months or less. But your family, it will be an indelible mark that's left on them by your absence. It is your family first, period, point blank. There's no discussion or apology that needs to be made. It's your family first, period.
Your family first. And it took me a long time. Like literally, before we got on this call, I got a text from my daughter that said, could we play hooky one day next week? Oh. I know my schedule next week is I made it like packed so I could do some work. I wrote back, yep.
Yeah. What you want to do?
What you gonna do? I'll find a day. I'm gonna cancel every damn thing. Oh well. Gotta move on. Because when that is in order, when you have your house in order, and let's start with the house, yourself.
Yes.
So in order to think about purpose, in order to think about transformation, which I know that is your expertise, you got to start with yourself. Yes. How are you taking care of the inside stuff that nobody sees? And that was different for everybody. I do not think that there was a prescription that you can just like whole hog give to everybody.
And you got it. This is what it is. This is the blueprint. Even with the blueprint, you still have to adjust it to your specifications.
Correct.
Like, you have to adjust.
Correct.
Oh, this is
and so I think that the idea of the well for me is emerging, right? So the well, from the perspective of not being able to pull or pour from an empty well. Yeah. To dip your cup in the ladle down into an empty well. So that well part. The well, from the perspective of things that are deep, dark, and sitting, but can bring life. And then also the well from being able to put things back into yourself so that you are operating from a place of wholeness and of wellness.
Oh, this is so good.
This is the work for me. And when I talk with my clients, when I have the privilege of being on stage, when I get to go and train in the workplace, folks like, we thought we were going to get the leadership management block and tackle. Oh, you will, but first we're going to deal with you.
Yes, because it's you first. It is you, the human. I tell people all the time, I don't care how tall the building, it's people that run it.
That's right.
People that make it work. And
Your
if
number
you
one
do
asset.
not understand, they are your biggest asset. I don't care how many patents you hold.
I do
I
not
don't care
care
how many trademarks you got. None of it means a thing if
at
you don't
all.
have people who can help to put it into play. Okay,
That's
yes,
right.
you have a machine that does it, but a person has to program the machine to get it to turn on, to pick up the this, to have the this. People, it will always and forever go back to people.
That's
So
it.
when it comes to knowing that it's people, and you do have to start with self, there's always a to-do list. It is never ending and ever expanding.
Whew.
Like it just gets bigger, right? At this point, if I finish 2 things, I'm like, oh yes, that is a
I'm
win.
excited about life. That's a win. That's a
That
win.
is a win. But what are some key things that we can do to better prioritize, to get some of those most important or big things done? Because I don't believe in balance per se.
Mhm.
To balance, it means that all things are weighted equally and all things are not weighted equally. So
Yeah.
I'll never truly achieve balance because
Yeah.
they don't all have equal weight. So
Yeah.
what are like some key ways that you feel that we can prioritize to get the things done that we need to get done?
I think for me, I agree with you 100%. I do not believe in balance, not work-life balance and other balance, but I do believe in the pendulum. And so I
Ooh.
imagine myself atop a pendulum, riding it like this. Woo, woo, and woo, right? So in that pendulum, you're going to have seasons where you got to really focus on work. So as you're coming into that downswing, pendulum goes up like this. You should be communicating that with your family. You should be spending time with them. You should be making time for stuff. They should know that things are happening. Because when the pendulum swings up into that work project, into travel season, into speaking, into audit, right? Whatever your background is, into litigation, whatever your profession is, when you swing up, that in that downswing coming up is where you should really be focused on making sure you got your health thing in check, making sure you got your eating plan, making sure that you got your food prep, making sure that you see what I'm saying? Because when you get up into there, you already know there's not room for the other things in the same way. But you prepped on the way up. Then when you're coming back in the other way, you need to decompress. Here we go again. Making sure you're good, recalibrating, essentially resetting, spending time with family, making sure you're getting out. Is there a vacation or PTO or a homestay in there? Back to the next thing. Sometimes it's looking like
Yeah.
But if we learn to lean into that pendulum, which involves communication, it involves transparency, because you can be transparent and not honest with yourself and others. And you can be honest but not transparent with yourself and others. And a quick example. I'm going to be doing a dating detox in the new year, which is the first time. I've been single for 10 years. And meaning I'm not married. I got divorced 10 years ago. I've had relationships, but it seems like all I have been doing for the last 10 years is searching for the life I left.
Oh, wow.
Woo-hoo. It took me a long time to figure that part out. That like really, what you're doing is trying to be like, nah, but I can best that. No, I can win that. No, I can capture that. So I'm trying to capture the flag for 10 years. Shout out and forgiveness to the gentleman who was a part of that journey, because Lord knows y'all ain't win. So I had to stop and recalibrate, and I decided to do a dating detox. So of course, whenever you decide to do a thing where you're gonna stop a thing, what happens?
All the things come.
Manna. So the men falling from the sky like manna? Just
like manna from heaven. And you're just like, so this is what we're doing?
Right. This is what we're doing. So I had to say, hi, I'm so glad to meet you. I'm going to be doing an actual dating detox. What's dating detox? I'm going to be stepping back for 6 months. I have books to read. I have a curriculum I made. I'm going to be doing study, blah, 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 blah. I'm a nerd. I'm doing it by myself. I don't care. I made a curriculum. So the gentleman's like, does that mean you're going to put me on pause?
I mean, you don't got to pause. I'm just saying.
You ain't got to pause. I'm out. Here's the thing. In my decision to just be friends and to try to build a friendship as an adult with a man where there is not a pause, where I'm not looking to then restart and make, that's not what I'm doing. I didn't take a pause, a break.
Oh, wow.
I said a detox. We discovered in conversations over time that actually he does not have room to date anybody. Then he's got some family stuff that he is navigating that is pretty intense. And I said, bro, you got about 98% for your family and 2% for anybody else. I don't know what woman is trying to fit herself into this little 2%. This is not a get in where you fit in situation.
Yeah, this ain't it.
He said, well, maybe I wasn't being honest with myself, because he was transparent. Wow. This is what's happening with my family. This is why I have to do these things. This is why my schedule is like this, blah, blah, blah. But he wasn't honest with himself about where he actually is.
Listen, you're going to deliver somebody today. When they listen to it. When whatever the day is that y'all listen to this one.
Whatever day. One of the days
that ends DAY, you're going to get some deliverance. Because this right here, I never even thought about the fact that you can communicate but not be transparent. And then you can be honest, or you can be transparent but not be honest.
I gave you the details, but not be honest. Here is the bedrock of why I'm doing a thing or why a thing happens. And that happens in relationships all the time. And so that happens in work relationships. So that happens when you're a leader.
Yeah.
And you could be vulnerable, right? So there's performative vulnerability now.
Let's not even talk about it, because that's a whole. We'll be here for 2 days.
Listen, that's a course. We need to just do a whole summit. Just come in with 9 notebooks, 67 pens, and water, because that's it. Gems, drop it.
This is, listen. Yes, though. Now, I want us to hit all of it. So yes, there is performative vulnerability, and we're gonna have it. We're gonna table that one for now, because that's a whole nother
thing. So when you're a leader and you're thinking about how to reach your team, inspire them to action, get them to take ownership of their own stuff, inspire loyalty, set vision, it's a lot of work. But it starts with really being honest about your why, being honest about where you are in this season of your life, and then deciding on what level of transparency you want to have about the details.
Yeah.
So that people can go, oh, okay, I get the context. Okay. And they move along. We're not doing that enough, because we've been taught, be self-aware, have high emotional intelligence, be authentic. But what does any of that really mean when you are stressed out?
What does it mean? And how you even do all of that? Listen, I'm just trying to wake up and take a shower. I ain't got time to be.
Do the clothes match? Do they match? Look, did I put my edge cream on? Like, what did I do today? Like, I mean,
yeah.
I'm excited about life, y'all, when I put on a good brown lip. Y'all got me on a good day.
Listen,
this is gonna make you laugh. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was in like that first wave. I call it the wave of the lepers. When they didn't know what to do with us, so they wouldn't touch us. So you on your own. You either all gonna die, you gonna make it. Okay, so I feel like I done came out of District 13 and I won. Okay. But on the other side of it, I looked at my mess. I looked a mess. And I just looked at videos the other day of what I was putting out in the beginning of the pandemic, and I was ashamed.
It's okay. You were doing the best you could with what you had.
I promise I was doing the best I could. I promise y'all it was still a mess. So the point about that is you can actually be having the experience that you are doing the very best you can, and it still be a mess.
Yeah. Because just because it's your best don't mean it is sufficient.
Ooh. Excuse me, she's gonna pop my neck back.
My bad.
Let me get my CBD cream for my neck, because it just popped me back.
Right. But that too, we got to start telling ourselves the truth. Like, sometimes my best in this instance is not good enough.
That's right.
And that's okay. It could be that you need additional support. Now, that's when vulnerability as a leader comes in to say, hey, yes, I'm over these 10, 20, 500 people, But in order for me to lead them well, these are the support systems that I'm going to need to be put into place so that the entire ball does not drop.
That's right.
And what does it look like to even be able to ask, and what do you do when you don't get it? Because just because you ask don't mean it's a yes.
Correct. And so to your earlier question and point about like, how do you prioritize these things? One, I told you, I decide that I'm just going to not give in to the balance, the balance idea. That's fallacy to me.
Yeah.
Then I start with, what is the one thing that for me makes me happy, even if it doesn't make anybody else happy? So I'll give you a small example real quick. Y'all see these nails? Ooh, they're cute.
So cute.
I've been getting my nails done since I was 14. And I'm a woman of a certain age. I took all my little money from Old Navy because I worked in the first Old Navy flagship. And before that, I was working as a tutor off the books. But I took all my little money to get my acrylics in the 90s, in those days, done. Acrylics. And it had to match your outfits for 2 weeks because that's how you was fly, okay? But I get my nails done for me. Literally, if I'm having a bad day, I can look down on my nails and be like, look, that is real good. That is so good. That is real good.
So cute.
Okay. Wish your nails done. I mean, so you can imagine at the beginning of the pandemic when everything had closed for months, I was a mess. I come undone. Okay. I give you a little point. I might think that's superficial, but for me, that goes beyond maintenance itself to care, because it literally is a thing that brightens my heart. So what is that one thing that you do for yourself that just brightens your heart, even if it doesn't for anybody else? Top of the priority list. Okay. Yes. Then really start to think about prioritization based on impact. And so I'd read something somewhere, I think she was like a branding expert, had written about the fact that, oftentimes we prioritize tasks, particularly for entrepreneurs, that don't actually help us earn revenue. And then we rush through the ones that do. And the example that she gave was, so it's 3:00 and you going to CVS to get your prescription, as opposed to sending out this next email to your list so they could buy this product. Well, you can get that prescription from CVS at the top of the day or on the weekend. Hello. I had to I threw a shoe.
I say you popping us. That's okay.
You don't have to convict me. Okay.
It's okay.
But so when I think about prioritization, I really have had to recalibrate and say, okay, what is the thing that actually is going to move the needle? Or another way, what is the domino that I'm going to knock down at its highest level that's going to knock down the most amount of dominoes? And then work my way down from there.
Oh, that's so good. It's so good. So it's not just doing what's most important. It's doing what's most important based on what needs to be done.
Correct. And what's going to involve other people, have to reach other people. Like, you have to really be thinking about priorities in terms of, how is it going to impact others? Who do I need to get involved in ensuring that this gets done? What type of impact is that going to have? It could be financial, it could be non-financial, it could be people-based. All of those things are important. So I don't try to, and I have all the little tools too, as I know you do. I have the color blocking on my calendar. I do time blocking. So I have those tactical ways that I move through my small tasks. But at its highest level, in your mind, you have to reprioritize how you even probably rethink how you even look at prioritizing things.
Absolutely. This is, when I tell you this is good, I hope y'all are taking notes, because every gem that's being dropped, I hope you are taking your notes, because this is necessary. It really, really is, because it's, especially with prioritization, with what we're talking about, like, how do you know and manage the guilt sometimes that exists when it is time to shift your focus? Now, whether that's, personally or even professionally, like you were just saying, you're going on a detox. Some people feel really, really guilty when they have to say no.
I feel really guilty when I have to say no.
Really?
I cry in the shower. I like to please people. It took me a long time to realize I was a people pleaser. And I think it has a lot to do with understanding, are you first in family? Are you the first so you're oldest in family, rather? So you're first in birth order, because a lot of times that's are you last in birth order? Are you a middle child that needed to always kind of pop out? So your birth order to me has a lot to do with that. Do you come from the type of family that are askers or guessers? And so I'll do it if you ask me to, but if you don't ask, I'm gonna look at the task and be like, are you the person that's like, you see, I need to get it done. Why didn't you just jump in? So you have to
I'm
really
that person.
You're that person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like it if you.
Me too.
And maybe I think I'm trying. I ask myself, is this something I need to work on? Because if you are close in up on me and you see that there's a problem and you aren't trying to figure out how do I provide a solution, I have a problem. And I'm gonna have to sit with my therapist to figure out, is this a bad thing? Is this an okay thing? Like, what is because I have a problem with that. I need you to look and see there's a shoe in the middle of the floor so she don't trip with the box. Let me move the shoe. I don't know. I like common sense myself.
Me too. But evidently, some people need to be explicit and some people it's implicit, right? And so I feel challenged by having to say no. I say no, embrace myself. I wish I could tell you I'm the kind of person, and that there are people in the world who are like this, and I always admire them. They'd be like, I don't care, that's what it is. I don't have the no F given yet. By the time I get to that portion of the program, you might as well be dead. I mean, I'm gonna step right over you. You don't want me to get to that portion of the program. You want me to fuss and to kvetch, because if I don't, so the way that I've been learning, particularly over the last year, to sit with the emotions I feel when I say no is to do just that. So I meditate every day. That is a very hard practice for me. I have just now and I'm up to day 52. And I just now in the last week or two have started to be able to sit into 10 minutes. Listen, y'all, I said it's not the best. So I just started doing 15 minutes 2 days ago. And I think at minute 12, I was like this.
Is it over? Can I open up now?
Look, okay. So I'm not telling y'all, so you don't have to be perfect, because that's the thing I think people, when they listen to us talk and they know that we're coaches, they're kind of like, well, y'all do this every day. Well, y'all must have it together. No, y'all is waking up every day going, dang, I'm not writing my journal today. Shoot. But then the difference is I'm not beating myself up. I immediately go to my phone, which is right here, and I put an appointment to myself for that night. So when my nighttime alert comes up, so does my put your journal entry in.
Yes.
I don't even sweat it.
Yep. Like, okay, time to do it.
The next morning I wake up, it's already right there, and I get it done like that. So just being able to go with the flow of your feelings, and your feelings are not facts. Your body is giving you facts. Your gut turning and twisting at a decision or a person or a thing, your hair raising on top of your head, your instant migraine, your body is facts. But your feelings, that's not facts.
Not
so
at
that's
all.
how I've been learning to navigate it, honestly.
I really like that. So then because you were just saying, like, listening to our gut, what are some key questions that we should ask ourselves, like before we make a shift, because we know we're going to have to do something different, and maybe it goes against and sometimes your feelings, you want it, right? Like, no, this is what I want. I want this. Exactly. I am for again, and I want it, whether it's a role that may or may not be good for you, whether it is an opportunity, whether it is a partner, whether it is, some place that you might not need to go, but you just want it. Like, what are some like key questions that we can even ask ourselves before we make any type of shifts?
Yep. So one of the things that I always ask myself is, what is this for? And then the second question I ask myself in that same vein is, who is this really for?
What is it for?
What is it for and who's it for? And sometimes I got an easy, quick answer. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm ratchet snatcher to myself. What is it for and who is it for?
Yes.
Who would really benefit if you ask it a different way? People are like, what is it for? Who's it going to benefit? What is it feeding? So there's a lot of smart sets on. My best friend always quotes to me like, who is the light on at night for? What are you hungry for? I think that's somewhere in this line, but it's basically like, who is the light on the fridge on at night for? What are you hungry for? Sorry, I got it right. So basically, why are you really doing this when nobody's looking? Okay. Very important to ask yourself this, because you'll be surprised at the answers. And then I think if you can go one step in, what am I willing to give up to do this? Because sometimes you see what you're willing to gain, what you're going to get, right? But at what cost?
At what cost?
So those are like the starter questions for me, that when I have the space and I slow down enough, just enough to make decisions, that I get to ask myself, particularly when I'm going to make life shifts. So important to be able to do that. And that is a gift you give yourself, because you would be surprised at the response that your narrative in your mind gives you.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, really like that, especially that last question. What am I willing to give up for this? Because we are finite beings. We are not able to hold all the things into perpetuity. We have to, use, like you said, in the pendulum example, we have to decide, where will my attention go during this time frame?
Right.
So that means if I'm focused more on this, that means I'm going to have to give up something here. What does that look like? And then two, as you are growing, like real growth, if anyone has ever been around a child who is teething, you can see that growth hurts sometimes. Grow some
That's
teeth.
right.
Shoot, folks who have grown wisdom teeth and it didn't really
They
go too
know.
well. You are clear on the fact that growth sometimes hurts. So like, how have you handled like the frustrations and the mental exhaustion that comes sometimes, and I want to say many times, but sometimes, that comes with real growth?
It has been a trial. It has been frustrating. I remember the other day I wrote a post on Facebook that said, sometimes I want to say to God, I need to speak to a manager.
Where is the manager?
Where is the manager? Like, because I'm just frustrated. Like, how much test does one need actually for testimony? I just would like to know.
How much? We don't gotta do this.
We don't, like, the last time, just send me the memo, man. So how I've learned to deal with it is, one, to be able to have a really good accountability squad and a covering in that squad. Folks who are not just going to be like, well, now I'm going to hold up the mirror to you, but also like, here's a blanket. I know it's chilly out. Oh. You need both that, because you need that warmth and you need that correction.
Yeah.
And so being able to have that crew that does that. So y'all got to be editing your peoples. Because if you have too many people giving the correction, but nobody giving you the little blanket, little warmth, then you don't have the right mix, to me. So that's been one. The second thing is to really be reflective. That's one thing I think I have as a gift, that I'm able to be like, I'm gonna go think about that, and really see, like, what am I supposed to learn in this particular situation, or what did I miss? And the third thing is, having the fact that I have tenacity and resilience, I think has served me well, because if a situation comes up and I'm up against a wall, we're going to thug it out. Like, I'm just like, oh, you're not about to win. That's just the way I'm built. And so if you're not built that way, then you have to put in place other mechanisms for your push through. And then sometimes when you're going through that growth, you just have to let it happen. Maybe the numbing cream is not enough. Some of us numb with alcohol. Some of us numb with shopping. Some of us numb with travel. Some of us numb with a boo. Some of us numb with activities. There's a point at which the numbing cream doesn't work, and you just have to let it be and sit with that and manage that. And it raises your threshold for change, because it raises your threshold for the pain that comes with change. And for me, that's what I've had to learn to do, to sit.
Yeah, sit in it. It's, you literally, this is why I wanted us to have this conversation, because I literally I was interviewed on a podcast, I think it was a couple months ago. I don't remember the exact time frame, because the days kind of like flow together.
Yes.
They just flow together. And I literally said something very, very similar. Like, you can't sleep it away. You can't run it away. You can't trip it away. You cannot. Your spirit is going to require that at some point you sit and listen. I don't care what your religion is. Every human, that being part, the being is the spirit. That's the spirit part. So if you keep focusing only on the humanity and never on the spirit, what happens is eventually your spirit goes, you know what? I'm plumb sick of this. You're going to really have to speak to a manager after I'm done cutting up over here, because you keep ignoring me.
I'm tired of your myth.
I'm tired of this. So now I'm going to act out. I'm going to give you problems and issues in your human body because you keep
Yes.
ignoring what I'm trying to say to you.
Yes. And
And until you,
sometimes to that being aspect that you brought up, I've been asking, like, how do you deal with that change? Sometimes, again, we have to be, not do. And so you have to learn to sit with it.
sit with it.
Just be able to sit with it and to be able to learn what sitting with it means for you. People are like, oh, how do you sit with it? I don't know sometimes. Literally sometimes sitting, literally sometimes chanting, literally sometimes moving, literally sometimes pausing on working on yourself.
Ooh.
Because you might need a rest from all of the development and the self-work and the reflection and the introspection and then the Instagram quotes that we keep reposting. And like sometimes you just need a break. Get some ratchet in your life.
some unadulterated fun.
Play.
Fun. We're adults. Be safe, of course. All the variants seem like they just all want to come out of hiding. So be safe, of course, but figure out what fun looks like for you, and then identify how it feels in your body when you're enjoying yourself, when you are having fun, when you are excited about something that is not attached or tied to an outcome for work. Like, what does that look like? And you just said a mouthful on like a recent Instagram post. And listen, I love when you be posting on Instagram. So on Instagram, you posted it, and I wanted to truly pass around a collection plate because yes, it is finished. Mic drop. Y'all go ahead. Time for the offering and the benediction. But you were saying like, okay, there is only so much, free content, articles, downloads, Instagram quotes that you can consume before like you actually realize that, hey, if I really do want to change, it's going to require some real investment. So if all you're doing is consuming all the things and it's time for you to take a rest, after your rest, you're going to need to make some real investment. So like, what do you believe is a way for team members? Because a lot of folks listen to these episodes, they are either emerging professionals or leading professionals and executives. But what do you believe is the best way for team members to advocate for themselves, right? To leverage the value that they bring to the table, and also to leverage their own organizations, like learning and development, like budgets and opportunities and stuff, to excel in their career. Like, what does it look like to say, hey, I'm good at this. The organization needs this. Can we train me in this?
Because I think that's such a good question. So the first thing is I want folks to know that like my belief has been this since I was an early career professional. You got to invest in yourself. And I remember I grew up in fundraising. So I would say you got to steward your career the way you steward donors, meaning you have to invest in the after the gift, the same way you did when you was hustling to get the gift. And so in your own career, the same way you were hustling to get that job, once you have the job, you got to nurture the career that you have. And sometimes that means that maybe we don't go on a group trip. Maybe we pay for the group coaching.
Oh, wow.
Hey, sometimes that means if your therapist that you love is out of network and it's going to cost you an extra $40 a week, it might mean you do one or two things. You either make more money. There's lots of ways to make money in your 5 to 9. I'm of that camp. Or you cut a thing so that you can afford it. I'm not really up to cut the expense. I'm up to make more money crew. But either way, whatever your money story is,
I'm the make more money crew.
You make more money crew? Okay, so find a way to do that. Then the third thing is to your specific question about like there's a project, there's a new skill, etc. Sometimes you're gonna have to go to YouTube University so you could shore up a little bit so that you can stunt. And we're in an era right now where folks are like, well, you need to pay me. Baby, you just out of school. Like, hold on a minute. I'm of a different generation. So I straddle. I want everybody to be paid equitably. I also want folks to understand the difference between exposure, experience, and expertise. And if you are the exposure period of the program, we don't need to pay you for that. That's when you need to raise your hand and be like, I was up last night, this weekend, whenever, or don't tell nobody how long you was up, learning how to do a thing I have some ideas and I made this. I'd love to be able to step onto this project. I'd love to be able to take this on, because the learning when you're at that exposure stage is for you, because then that gets you to the experience stage. When you at the experience stage, then I'm gonna need you to get your coins. And then you take those experiences and you replicate and you learn and you replicate and you learn. You get the Skillshare, you get the online course, you get whatever you need for you. If your job is not investing in you, that is not an excuse for you not to invest in yourself. We can have a whole other episode of our company should need to invest, and we shouldn't even be worried about that. But that's the should. I'm dealing with the now, the is.
Yes, the is. Ooh.
And that's one of the reasons why I was able to move from being a manager in my first job out of grad school into the C-suite not even 3 years later. Because I was like, what you said I can do?
Give me a moment.
Came back swinging. Yeah, I'll take on that project. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah. Oh, you want me to speak? Yeah, okay, I'm going to do the deck. Oh, no, actually, I have a question. Oh, you want me to be on? People were tired of me. I don't care. When I got to the next role that I was applying for, I had boom, 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 all this experience that I had done, tangible examples of things I had done. Mm-hmm. And yes, I negotiated for what I needed. And that's a different conversation we need to have about negotiating. But to your question about that, you invest in yourself because you owe it to yourself. You respect yourself enough to nurture your career so that you can get to what it is you want. Your company investing in you is a bonus. And being your investor, then you really need to get into the HOV lane and get it done. That's what I got. That's what I'm gonna leave you with.
And on that note, the mic has been dropped. I listen. Where can we stay connected? Where do we, for folks who do need a coach and it's time for them to invest in it, what does it look like, whether it's working with you or whoever, we want to know all the things.
Absolutely. So you can always find me across all social media at Kishshana Palmer, KISHSHANA So you type in KISHSH, Google will do the rest for you. So that is one thing. For folks who are interested in learning how to be better managers because you're interested in moving up into the C-suite, please grab one of my courses, and you can do that on learn.kishshanaco.com. And I know you'll be able to give everybody the information, but you can find me. I'm in these internet streets, y'all. Okay. And don't come to me if you want me to tell you what to do. We will reveal what needs to be done, but you make sure you get your transformation before you get your elevation. And so listen, there's the 1-2 punch on this line.
Oh, listen, this was it's the gems for me. This was so good. Y'all already know, stay connected with me all everywhere because the internet streets are much safer than the real streets right now. So Alechia Reese, everywhere, anywhere. It's spelled weird, but you go with me. My mama knew I was unique. It's unique for sure. And then you can stay connected with the podcast and everything else at gotvaluenation.com. I cannot wait to continue having these conversations and send us a message. Slide in Kishshana's DMs. Like, let her know which part of this conversation. Slide in. Not with no foolishness, though, but with the goodness. Slide in to let her know which part of this conversation helped you to go ahead and get started on that path to elevation so that you can not only lead well, but live well. I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for joining us on the Got Value podcast. Remember, there is true value in purpose, and the greatest discovery of your life will be exactly what yours is. Stay connected with us at gotvaluenation.com.